Hi there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Anita Adefuye. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a career coach, and I wear many hats pretty much. But primarily on this channel, what we talk about is undoing the culture of silence on matters around sexual abuse, sexual violence, or just overall gender based violence and mental health issues. So I have been a survivor. I am a survivor of child sexual abuse myself. And so I speak to those topics from a place of education, awareness, and advocacy, but even more so from a place of helping others heal and walk through that journey themselves so they can come out on the other side, like I did. And but I also like to educate people on what these issues are, what they look like, how to navigate them, even if you're not a survivor or you haven't experienced one yourself. Today we're going to be talking about a heavy topic. First of all, if you're new into this channel, thank you for coming. I encourage you, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification button so you know every time that there is a new video. And if you are returning, thank you for returning. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about a heavy topic, and I'll tell you more about it when we return. Welcome back. So, like I said before, today's topic is a little heavy, so there is trigger a lot. This conversation really might trigger someone, and especially what I'm about to read. It is quite heavy. I still cringe thinking about it. But I also realize the importance of sometimes bringing up examples like this to really help drive home some of the conversations we've been having in this place and why these conversations are important. I get it that some people are unintentional abusers, unintentional, but it doesn't take away the fact that their actions leave lasting impact in the lives of those whom they abuse. So I will be bringing up something to read and like I said, it's heavy. So let's just get right into it. But trigger alert, this might trigger some of you. If you're potentially likely to get triggered, I encourage you to, either seek help or be with someone who can help you if you get triggered. But I'll just get right into the stuff. I'll put it up on the screen and then I'll read it out. And then we'll talk about why we're looking into this today and some things to do. So here's the post, and it is something that someone had put up on Facebook, and I pulled it out. I'm going to, as you can see, I struck out the name because I don't want people to really, I mean, it's out there, but from this channel, you're not going to see who it is. And so this person, I'm assuming a woman, a mother, right? Please post for me. I caught my husband fingering our little daughter. They were both on the bed lying down whilst I sat on the bed with my back facing them. I turned and caught him fingering our daughter. When he stopped and pretended to be asleep, my daughter started crying. She even dragged his hand back to her private parts. My husband then said, "Mommy, sleep now," meaning, get to sleep, because we call her mommy. I jumped out of the bed and questioned him. He said there's nothing wrong in a father fingering his daughter to sleep. Wow. That it's his own way of making her sleep. Upon asking more questions, he said that that was how his father used to do with his sisters while they were babies. My girl is 4 years old, and I have been wondering why her vulva is so big. Please, is it right for a father to do this? His intentions might be genuine. Please help me ask your audience. He also said if I'm doubting him, I should call one of his sisters and ask. But I want to hear from your audience first before I decide my next steps. Thank you. So my response really to this is wow, wow, wow. Like wow. I I typically don't do this whole just carrying thing. I don't like it that much. I don't like it. Not that much. I don't like it. But again, I stumbled on this, so I think somebody sent it to me. And my first reaction was, man, arrest this woman and arrest this man and take that child away from them. But violence is not the answer, unfortunately. But I decided I wanted to talk about this topic. and talk about this in particular, but it's not just for talking about the issue sake. I mean, if you have an advice for this one, feel free to leave it in there. Feel free to leave it in comments. Feel free to leave it wherever. If you know where that post was made, you're in that group chat or group or whatever, feel free to go there and leave her an advice. But peradventure there are other people who are in the same position where maybe you observe or notice a spouse abusing a child, your child. What are you supposed to do? And before we answer the question of what you're supposed to do, I want to quickly touch on why people like this woman tend to not take action when they see things like this happening in their homes. And typically, it's usually the woman who tends to be on the receiving end, where they observe the man doing something and then they have a call to make on whether or not they will do something about what they have just witnessed. So, the one question that I want us to quickly tackle is, why do people hesitate to take action when things like this happen? One of the reasons is because, one, they're afraid. They're afraid of losing their homes. They're afraid of what people would say. They're afraid of the implications of um, of admitting to taking any action whatsoever, what might happen. They don't know if it will backfire. They don't know how it will backfire, and so they shy away from taking any action. Number two, which maybe should have really been number one, is that they honestly don't know what they do and they're in shock. When I read some of the comments, I saw how people were really abusing this woman and hurling insults at her and saying things like, she's a terrible mother. But the truth is that oftentimes nobody asks to be abused, but even more so, nobody asks to marry an abuser, so to speak. Now, some of you might say, why are you calling this father an abuser? Like he said, he was just doing something he saw his father do. Well, a question for him would be, did he really think what his father was doing was appropriate? Was it correct? And what he's doing, is it really appropriate and is it correct? Now, he had a choice growing up to also um, admit to not being that kind of father, but now, as a grown man, he must have reflected back and realized what his father was doing was wrong, but he chose to continue in that line. So I'm sorry, he's an abuser by every definition. And what is child sexual abuse? It is when you touch a child in a sexual way, or you expose sexual body parts to them intentionally, so especially, and or you make them touch your private parts. And from what this father is doing, that typically fits within the definition of child sexual abuse. So, why people hesitate to take action is that they're in shock and they just don't even know what to do or where to even begin, which clearly is a state that this woman is in. And that's why I said violence is not the answer, because sometimes when we understand where people are at, it is easier for us to offer the best advice and or guide them on how best to deal with the situations that they find themselves in. Number three is that people don't take action on things like this because they are afraid of losing their homes. And I know I talked about fear before, but even more specifically, so a lot of women tend to not take action because they don't want to be single again. They don't want to be divorced. They don't want to be separated. But the truth is, what would you rather have? Living with yourself and with that lie that you're married to a good man who abuses your children, who in turn would, of course, know that you knew but did nothing, chose to do nothing. And then they'll hate you for the rest of their lives, most likely, unless they find God and God helps them forgive you, but they would hate you for the most of their lives. What would you rather have? Or be single and raise your child that is whole and well, and give your child the help that they need? What would you rather have? And I know we talk about child sexual abuse right now, but it can be any form of abuse. Take that child away from there. And so, because of fear of losing their homes, a lot of women, especially, shy away from taking action that they should take. But guess what? Refusing to do anything only makes you an accomplice to the abuse, because now you know and you choose to let that child continue to suffer. Now, number four is that people refuse to do anything about things like this because they don't know where to go. Now, it's one thing to not even know what to do, it's another thing to not know where to go. Now, if you live in developed countries, Very simple. Dial 911. They would always tell you where next to go. Or there are many organizations that are out there. If you don't want to go through the process alone, there are many organizations out there that would help. Please, people, if you're watching this wherever you're watching from, if you know an organization in your vicinity, in your locality that helps deal with child sexual abuse issues, please put it in the comments so that people have varying degrees of ideas of where to go depending on where that location is. So they don't know where to go beyond not knowing what to even do or the right things to do. People don't even know where to go to seek help. So please, there are many organizations and many opportunities available to seek help. Please seek help. And I know that she's asking for this advice in good faith, not because she wants to cover up for her husband or anything like that. And, obviously, this is a woman who is in shock. So, we've talked a little bit about why people don't take hasty actions and things like this. And, but let's also talk about the consequences of not taking those actions. The consequences of not taking the action, I mentioned one of them earlier, is that you yourself become an accomplice to abuse. In other words, you are as guilty as an abuser as the person doing the act. So in the case of this woman, she'll be as guilty as her husband who has been abusing that child, because now you chose to do nothing. Number two is that that child will grow up abused. Now, let's even talk about the child a little bit. Some people might be wondering, oh, 4 year old, how come she's even enjoying it? Well, our body mechanism is our body mechanism, and biology is biology. And I believe that our bodies will respond to any seemingly feel good experience. Now, the truth is that I'm sure if you took a scan and scanned that child's brain, in the early parts of it, that child probably struggled a little bit. There'll be conflicts, as happens to every child. They can't really articulate or explain what's going on, but they know that instinctively they know that this is wrong and I shouldn't be in this place. But of course, because they're children, they're powerless and they don't know what to do, so they would, of course, do nothing. It doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't make it right. Just because her body is responding to something, and then something that has now become a comfort factor to her, of course, it's natural that she would respond by taking the man's hand back to whatever he was doing when the mother looked away. And of course, you can see the innocence of the child thinking that that's supposed to be normal, because if the mother was looking at them and the child is still saying continue, it means that child doesn't even have any clue, right? Um, because that's the innocence of children. But then the man, who's the adult, knows that he's doing something wrong. So what does he do? As soon as someone is watching him, he stops. If he knew what he was doing was right, he should have been like the child and continue doing what he was doing. And so the consequence of doing nothing is that that girl will grow up and potentially might then now have insatiable sexual desire. So from the perspective of the child, you would have raised a child who would be almost sort of broken, and you would raise a child who will feel trauma, because as she begins to come fully aware of, and again, children are not fully aware of good and evil, but as she begins to become fully aware of what is right and what is wrong, and she would realize that what was happening was wrong, she'll be filled with shame, she'll be filled with guilt, she'll feel dirty, she'll feel, less than. And we don't want that for that child. And then the second consequence of doing of not taking any action is, or the third consequence of not taking any action, is that you validate that man's actions. You are telling him what he's doing is okay. But guess what? Today it's your daughter. Today he's using fingers. Tomorrow it will translate into something else. Tomorrow he will graduate into something else. And it's only a matter of time that man will be taking full advantage of that girl, forgetting that that's his child. And when he doesn't feel satisfied enough with her, guess what? He will turn to other children out there on the streets. Maybe he has a perverted mind and thing for little girls. When his daughter grows up, he will turn to other little girls. And we don't want that. You don't want to put out another abuser out on the street. So your consequences, the consequence of not taking action, is that you validate his actions and you empower him to continue to abuse that girl, and who knows, by extension, potentially abusing other girls. We do not want that. Another consequence of not doing anything is that you will not be able to live with yourself. The child is not the only one that will feel guilt. The child, nobody might ever know what happened. But the truth is, you won't be able to live with yourself because you will know that you are living a lie. And that family you're trying so hard to put together will never be put together because it is now established on a foundation of lies, on a foundation of perversion. And there is no way that our family can function at its peak as it should because there is perversion included. There is perversion included. So there are many consequences really to not taking actions, but I'll just stop there with those ones for now. Now, the real question is, what do you then do in a situation like this? What should this woman have done? Now, she's done one of the things that I think, would make sense to do, which is seek for help. Do I validate her method of seeking for help? Absolutely not. The world of social media justice, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it helps. But if the question was, are there places that I can go to get counsel on how to navigate this? That would have been a better question. But the way her question is framed, it's almost as if she's saying, should I really be doing anything about it? The answer is yes, please be doing something about it. The first thing you should be doing is removing that child from the place of abuse, removing that child from a place where she's been abused. That's the first thing that you should be. That's the first thing that you should be doing. Now, she asked a very fundamental question that I want to provide an answer to. And the question was that, is it right for a father to do this to his girl? And she followed up by saying his intention is genuine. There is no way his intention is genuine. The fact that he's trying to prove to you that this is a thing and that you should ask his sisters, who, by the way, should also be in therapy at this point or working through a form of healing process, right? The fact that he's telling you to do that is a big sign that he knows that what he's doing is wrong and he's just trying to validate it and he's trying to take advantage of your trust in him. So, should a father be doing this to his daughter? Absolutely not. Only a sick father will do that. And this man sounds like he's very, very sick. So, what should you do? Remove that child from there. Now, you want to talk to the sisters again in a situation like this. You want to talk to anybody else, talk to them, but from a place of really trying to understand and let them know that, look, I will be taking up action against this man. Now, if you choose to not do anything because you're worried, again, remember the reason people don't do these things is, what will people say? If that is a problem that you are worried about, then remove your child from that place, remove yourself from that home, and take your child somewhere else and raise that child by yourself. Look, first of all, women, marriage is not an end goal of life. Is it good to be married? I'm happily married, very happily married. So it's good, it's a beautiful thing. But the person has to be seen. It can't be somebody who intentionally hurts you and hurts your children. The person has to be a sane human being. That's how it works. But when the person chooses insanity and consistently lives in that insanity, then there's a problem. Now, if he wants, he can go through therapy himself and get healed because again, if he saw his father doing that to his sisters, I can understand where it is coming from. But what I don't understand is why, as an adult, he didn't do an assessment for himself to realize that this is wrong and I need to do better as a father. That you were abused or that you watch your sisters go through abuse does not mean that you get to do it to your own children. So he needs deliverance. So, in a situation like this, what this mother should do, what any mother should do, or what any adult should do is remove that child from the place of abuse. That's number one. Number two, immediately start a rehabilitation process for that child. There are child psychologists who can, through um, CBT. What does CBT stand for? Whatever CBT stands for, something behavioral therapy, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy, or whatever kind of therapy that there is that exists. There are, but enroll that child as soon as possible into some form of rehabilitation process or therapy process so that they can begin to readjust and heal. That's number two. Number three. Now, this one might be hard. Take legal action. This might be hard, but take legal action. Now, I know that I said that because people are afraid of what people might say, you can remove your child and choose to be quiet about it. But the truth is that, would you really want on your conscience that that man goes out and begins to do the same thing to other people? I don't think so. And until people start to really learn from their from really learn by engage experiencing the consequences of their actions, they might never change, and it becomes a note of warning to somebody else to say, okay, women are no longer being stupid. They will not choose their marriages over the sanctity of their children anymore. And when more women start to step up to that and do things like that, guess what? More men will start to get the message and start to act appropriately. Why would you even abuse a child? How much more yours? Right? So, where need be, take legal action. If you don't feel like you have what it takes to go through that process of legal action, then at least do number one and two, remove the child, enroll them in therapy. And then number four, you will need to forgive yourself because, and I know this one is big, maybe we don't think about it. The truth is that a lot of mothers will start to feel like they were a failure. There was something that they did wrong. I mean, she saw some signs, the vulva was big, but she didn't really do anything about it from what it sounds like. She just said she wondered about why that was happening. So clearly she didn't do anything about it. And, I'm sure she'll start to think about different times where it's like, what have I done wrong? Where did I go wrong? So you'll need to forgive yourself. You will need to forgive yourself. And in forgiving yourself, you need to forgive yourself. And in forgiving yourself, you would also need to forgive the man. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, you'll forgive the man and you'll forgive yourself. Um, this is important because you might never really be able to move forward and give your child all the help and support that they need if you yourself are whiling away in a place of guilt and shame. And then finally, I would say is that pray for your child's healing, support them in whatever way that you can, pray for their healing and be more mindful if you yourself have to even go through therapy, which in some cases some people might need, please feel free to do that for yourself. But above all, be prayerful. Pray for God to keep protection over you, over your children. The truth is, one thing I'm learning and I'm really realizing is that sometimes some men who do this have some occultic um, engagements that they do, and it's part of some stupid rituals that they have to do. I saw that happen in my own experience personally. And there's so many others that you talk to, you realize that that was the experience for them as well. Is that maybe the person, especially when it's a parent doing this to their own child, there's often quite some occultic attachments to it. And it's not always the case, don't get me wrong, right? But sometimes that is the case. And that means that in that instance, there's something bigger than you, there's some supernatural force that have entered the equation, and you will be doing yourself a disservice if you don't cover yourself up in the place of prayer, especially and pleading the blood of Jesus over you, your child, and your family. Again, this is not a great place. It's not a thing anybody should experience, quite frankly. My heart goes out to this woman. My heart goes out to her child. My heart goes out to her family. If there are other children in the picture, my heart goes out to them. I just really pray that she would receive direction to know what to do. And for this little girl, I just really pray. The Bible talks about how do not awaken the love until it's appropriate time. The love and passion in this child has unfortunately been awakened, and sometimes it can trigger. um, you see some little girls at 10, they do certain things and you're wondering who raised them, who taught them, where did they learn this. Many of them unfortunately were victims of abuse when they were much younger, and that has created an insatiable desire in them, unfortunately. So I will stop here for today, but overall, if there is one advice I'll give to every parent, is whether, like, just hold one another accountable through your children. Tell your children, mommy does something to you, let daddy know. Daddy does something to you, let mommy know. Anybody else comes into the household, they do something to you, let us know. So that way, when everybody knows that, the children have been trained to tell on you, you'll be more mindful and respectful in how you treat them. And when people come into your home and realize that you're raising children who are confident and are not afraid to call anybody out on whatever they do, then they would even be more mindful and be very thoughtful before they try and make any move on your child. Look, we have been given these kids to protect, and we are stewards over them, and we're going to give accounts. If we cannot give accounts to government or whatever, we will give accounts to God. And when that moment comes, may not be because you were trying to hustle to save your marriage. That, by the way, if the man is already doing that to your child, that marriage was dead a long time ago. Then we'll say because we're trying to save that marriage, we're trying to save that home, is why we let the child that he gave us go through abuse. God forbid. So really, please, everyone, pay attention. Children are a steward from we're stewards over the children that God has given to us. They're a gift, and our reward back to Him is that we protect their sanctity, we protect the sacredness of their bodies, and we raise them to be whole, healthy humans. I hope this helps someone. Please feel free to share, and I will see you in the next video. And I'm looking forward to your comments. Truly, truly, truly. If you were to advise this woman, what would you advise her to do? I know I've said quite a lot, but I would like to hear from you as well. Who knows? Maybe there might be something out there that gets back to her and it can be really helpful. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you and bye.